go.
And we are officially live. And I can tell you what, this topic, and even though we're going to get real serious about it, this topic is something just before we went live. We need help. We need help ourselves.
We need help. Send help.
So
Please
we're
send
going to be
help.
diving in really deep on all different facets. We're
bottle
going
of
to talk
Prozac.
about mental health challenges in life, in business, and the entire entrepreneur's ecosystem. So stay tuned. We'll see you on the inside. Whew.
And we're back.
We're a hot mess over here, everyone. So
We're a hot mess.
Did you see me backstage? I literally ran in to put lipstick on in the middle of that.
me too.
Like,
Me
Star
too.
and I have a little runny nose, so we're
I
both
was like,
blowing
boy,
our
but
nose.
I was sick last week, and my nose is still running. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah.
Well,
Come
today is
on.
February 1st. I get like 30 days have already gone by this year already.
30 days.
It is
1/12 of the year is gone.
Month this year, so I have all my red and my hearts and all my things because I told
Gina Torres.
I said I think that Tony and I are still like in our honeymoon stage. She goes, "You definitely are."
Yeah. I'll check back in with y'all in 10 years and see how see if you're still wearing red on February 1st.
We're not black with the veil.
Tell you, guys, in 10 years, okay? Tina, I'm going to give you the best advice.
Okay.
Whenever you have to have a serious discussion or an argument, do it naked. You can't get that mad.
We do that now. I have something to tell you.
Oh, I don't know if I could take that kind of heat. I mean, that might be more pressure than I want.
Well, we officially
This is why you got the baby in the bum.
I know. This is how the baby happened. I don't know, right? Like we were having a discussion and then I don't know, and all of a sudden I'm pregnant.
Okay, so that won't ever happen. It'll be immaculate conception if I get pregnant.
So, well, it's been crazy, and you're right. We're already 1 month down, and the interesting thing is this topic that we're going to be discussing today. It really does kind of feed into that, right? It feeds into goals. It feeds into the roadblocks or maybe the ruts that we find ourselves in, both in life and business.
Well,
And
January is the worst time, and I always have like this seasonal depression thing. In like the whole
That's a
month,
real thing.
like the whole month of January. And at first, I've had it for 10, 15 years, every January, because December is always a big month, Christmas, my birthday, my youngest son's birthday, it's like so many things, right? And you're going to all these parties and you're having all this fun. And then January, boom, nothing.
And then you're broke from Christmas and you're
Right,
like, oh my God, my credit card bill.
It is just so much. And then, like everything else in January, your business slows down. Everybody starts kind of focusing on their goals and their budget and their health. And they're like, we're not buying anything right now. We're not doing anything right now. We're not, so I think everything kind of came together. I lost my dog last year. My best friend moved out of the country. I got engaged. So like January was a mental month. And then Tony and I were going to be away from each other for like 30 days. And we're like, oh my God, because he like officially moved in this weekend. But, for 30 days, he was gone, so after like we got engaged, he was like, okay, Asta.
yeah.
So, I'm glad that we're talking about this. Today, we're talking about mental health, awareness and challenges as you go through. And as this whole month, I was talking to different entrepreneurs. I probably have about 20 of my friends, coaches, 7-figure coaches, 8-figure coaches. I mean, all these people who have said January is a hard month for them mentally. And that seasonal depression really gets to you. And so we're going to talk about that today and talk about some of the things that you can do, some of the things that you can step away from, how to delegate. Robert does not like to delegate. He likes to do things on his own because it kind of gets him away from the computer. So we want to know, like, what do you guys do? Like, are you guys suffering from seasonal depression? Do you guys suffer from that imposter syndrome this time of year? Do you guys delegate everything out like I do? Or do you want to know your own yard like Robert does?
Tina, what's interesting is I think it depends where you live, right? And I didn't realize the seasonal depression that I had when I was in Canada, because like literally on the West Coast, we have 9 months of gray, damp, wet weather, and you're inside or whatever. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I couldn't pull out of it. And I was like, why is it like this? And I didn't notice the difference until I obviously came to Mexico. There's an average of 355 sunny days here in Cabo. And so like, I don't go through any of that. I wake up and it's a great day, right? Like
she listed more days than there were in a year. There's like 380 sunny days a year in Cabo.
I said 55, right? Like
no, I know. I'm messing with you.
I was like, I don't know what I just said.
But she has baby brain, I mean, even with you, you're 3 weeks away from having a baby. And so it's gonna be harder. I mean, I think it's hard for everybody.
Crazy though. Oh, so I don't know if you guys know this, but if you know certain genes that you have, what do they tell every pregnant mother to do? Go take folic acid every single day from the moment you're pregnant to the moment. There are studies now that have the MTA or MRM. I call it the mother.
Oh, it is MFTHR, and it was like if you take out all the vowels.
That's what I call it. And so when you have that gene and you take folic acid, it dramatically impacts your hormones, and it's something that actually produces postpartum. And so I learned that this time around, and I was so aware of that. My mood has been completely different because I'm not taking folic acid. Please talk to a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice, okay? But there are different formulations of folate that you can take that'll support the baby and support you. And honestly, I'm kind of excited this time because I feel normal. I feel great. Awesome. And if you are aware of those, and by the way, that's a piece of it. Your health is a piece of it. Eating healthy, getting 8 hours of sleep, like that is part of your mental health. Getting exercise every day. Those are things that are so
Cabo,
right?
Your daily walk on the beach with nothing to worry about early in the morning, and just take that zen.
Yeah. But like the environment, the sunshine, as you stated, Christina, it is extremely important. I was stationed and I lived in like the Seattle, Washington area, right? So I was on the West Coast for about 3 years.
Is right now.
3 years. And actually statistically, that area is like the #1 suicide rate. And so again, this may be some touchy topics for some people, but it's your environment, right? Yeah. And all of us, by the way, every single one of us at some point in time has reached a low moment. So I just want to kind of get that out there for the people that are tuning in. We've all experienced something in life.
I would say multiple low moments.
Yeah. But I mean, some type of loss, some type of tragedy, something that, or even maybe even something that's unresolved that we're still dealing with. Just we're one trigger away, right? Yeah. However, it really is more about equipping yourself with the tools to be able to pull yourself out of that. That is really what is important. And I want to make sure that's the message.
Robert, I'm glad you said that because, 5 years ago when, some of you guys know my story, but 5 years ago when I had that bad depression, all these things happened to me and I would reach out to people. They're like, Tina, you're the freaking gratitude specialist. And I'm like, I know, but I am still human. I can still be depressed and not be freaking grateful for everything. And I do know you have to okay, I need to write down some grateful things, but you got to be able to process those emotions and stay in it for a day or two. I mean, not weeks and whatever, but don't just blow it off and be like, okay, I can get out of this.
Yeah. And so, I mean, here's the thing that the best way that I can explain this, because I actually had the same conversation with a client about a month ago, is if you are in an environment, right, that seems to be dreary, gray, rainy, whatever that is, and those can be, subjective to however you want to describe it. Create your own sunshine, find your own sunshine. And that means, whatever that may be, your support system, tuning into great podcasts, talking to people. Maybe it's a coach, it's a friend, it's somebody that you can lean on. Like that support system can be your sunshine on a very low day. And so
Well, and they also have these lights, and I can put a link in the comments if you guys want to, but they have these lights that portray the sun. Oh, I can't even think of the word now, but I have one, and when you turn it on, it's like that sunlight, vitamin D type of thing. And I literally got it when we were all in COVID, dealing with all the depression because we weren't going anywhere, we weren't seeing anybody, we weren't touching anybody, we weren't hugging anybody, physically, everything was virtual. And I'm a very physical person. And so like being with somebody physically, and I remember 4 or 5 months like into COVID, I went and met a friend, or a friend came to me or something, and she hugged me, and I was like, oh, it was like the first physical contact that I had with anybody in months.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm only chuckling, not because of what you said, Tina, but I was sitting here thinking to myself, really know who your support people are, like get to know them, because I can tell you for a fact, there are some people that don't work off of a hug, right? I'm a very touchy feely, huggy person as well. And I know who to not go to reach out for a hug when it comes to those things. So that's
your audience, right?
Yeah,
know your
audience.
Yeah,
I mean, like, but that's an important thing, right? Is just understanding, really tapping into like who your support system is, both family and friends. Sometimes you can't even go to your closest family member, right? To confide or to feel empowered or improved in any way. You have to go to a complete, I don't want to say stranger, but somebody that, that you work with online or whatever it may be. Right.
Sometimes that is the case. Sometimes it's not your friends and family. I mean, there's many times that I've had to go to people. I mean, I've never met Christina Whiteley in person. Never.
Isn't that crazy?
And I feel like she's one of my best friends. Same with Star. Like never met physically in person, but I feel like she's one of my best friends. Like I can call her. Like, I mean, there's many times.
Well, this is part of our sunshine support system.
I'm like, oh my God.
Someone's going to trademark that by the end of the show.
I'm like crying on the phone, and they're like, it's okay, yada, yada. I feel the same. So, even if they're not physically there, find your tribe that makes you vibe. Like you need to find those people that are supportive and non-judgmental when you're, having a nervous breakdown, because we all have been there.
I think that, so like we should also talk a little bit about like the diversity of being your own boss, because it not only is everything landing on you if you haven't outsourced, but you also have all of the control. And so there's a lot of people that may go into a depression. Like I know a lot of people went on stress leave during COVID. People are still on stress leave with their jobs, right? And the beautiful thing about business is that there are no rules. You get to do business the way that you want. And so I'm going to tell you, having a passive income, like not only working in my wheelhouse, like if I feel terrible, I said this story the other day, actually. I was just having a moment, and I said to Ryan, like 5 minutes before I went live with a group of people that I was going to help, I was in tears. I was just having a pregnant moment. I was just like, oh my God, everything is falling apart, or it's coming together. I can't tell. And I was like in tears. And then I instantly get on live, and I'm with a community of people that I can help, that I'm in my wheelhouse. My entire mood changed, my energy changed. Like I was so much happier when you're working in that space. Like it takes those feelings of sadness away. But how many times, like, I just want to ask you guys, like passive income, I didn't realize until I was 34 that I was living with PTSD. That I had a really tragic accident happen with my dog, and she died in my arms, and I couldn't get out of bed, and I didn't understand what was happening to me. Like I've been doing personal development for 20 years. Everything's good. I also had one of those moments during COVID after having a couple of miscarriages that I was like, I'm not okay. And I don't know what to do, because nobody knew how to help me. They're like, you're the strong one. Like you're the one who does this. Like how
everybody else. Yeah.
Right. And so like you said, Tina, like you're the gratitude specialist. Right. And it's just like, I know, but I don't know how to help myself. And so I want to be transparent about that, because you see these powerhouse people in your life or on social media, and you think, wow, they don't have to deal with what I have to deal with. And that simply isn't the case. And I'm going to tell you, passive income has saved my ass more times than not, right? When I've had loss in my family, loss with a pet, my own personal mental struggles, and I know that you guys can relate to this, right? But it gives us this different sense of freedom that everything is going to be okay if we've got that coming in and we can continue to move down the line. And actually, most people don't get the chance to heal themselves. They don't get the chance to grieve and take a time out. Robert, I know that you just went through a loss, and we honor that. And you can't be here today. We'll cover for you. What can we do to help you? You both have had, Star and Robert, you both have had children that you've lost, like this is something that happens, like life happens. It doesn't matter how much money you make, life still happens, right?
Absolutely. And actually the passive income and the things that you're talking about, putting yourself or positioning yourself so that when life happens, as you just stated, you have the ability to kind of hit pause, and take a little bit of time off to recover, to recoup. Most people don't have that. I mean, most people, and really the system is designed so that I know so many people that used to even work for me in corporate America that, they would grieve the loss of a loved one and they're back to work in 3 or 4 days because they're forced, because they're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Like in that situation. So they feel forced. They never even have time to grieve properly or to even acknowledge the pain that they're sitting in. And so it is a broken system, and it's our job, right, to be out there spreading this message, to helping people, to create an environment and a lifestyle that will prevent some of these things, or at least I should say, mitigate some of it, right? Soften the blow just a little bit to kind of help you through that process.
Even us as entrepreneurs, right? We're entrepreneurs. We're working for ourselves. We don't have that stress of a 9 to 5 and the stress of this. I think we have other stresses because it is all on us.
We absolutely do.
Robert said some statistics this morning, and I was talking to Tony, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And it kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Do you know that there's higher levels of depression, 30% higher level of depression with entrepreneurs?
Yep.
30% higher than even on top of the normal statistics if you're a woman or whatever. And then 29 or 27 anxiety disorder.
Exactly.
And I think, us as entrepreneurs got to really understand and give ourselves grace, because we do take it all on. Our business goes up and down. We're going to have low months of income. We're going to have high months of income. We're going to have death. We're going to have this. And we still kind of have to go on, right? Like Robert, I know you just had a loss in your family too, but you still kind of had to work on certain things. You're like, okay, I can put that aside. I can put this aside. But this, I got to do this because this is what people are paying me for.
And the beautiful thing is when we talked about creating, again, I'm going to coin this phrase by the time we're done, the sunshine environment, right? Our sunshine community. That really allowed me to still kind of come back into a place of just safety, comfort during that loss, where even when I was helping certain clients, or I had to do a little bit of work here and there through that, through losing my father unexpectedly, just for those that are just kind of tuning in, it really helped ground me, because in most cases they were willing to, kind of hit pause themselves, like halfway through a coaching session or whatever. And they said, you know what, let's just talk for a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not even going to charge you for today. Like, let's just talk. It's great having a friend, here on the other end. And then they would share something about, themselves and their loss. And that's really all about that true connection, like understanding your community at that level, understanding why, like each one of us, we know that we've all experienced some type of grief in life and some type of even unresolved loss that still comes back from time to time, right? Christina, you mentioned, obviously losing, a child as well, and Star and myself and Tina, you've had like a major like journey of grief and loss, and those type of things, they don't necessarily just go away, but we've learned over time, we've equipped ourselves to like acknowledge that there is this pain. And that's a big difference. Most people, they try to just push through and they don't even acknowledge that it exists. And then the other thing is, like, now that you've acknowledged it, like giving it time to heal, and then acknowledging the scar afterwards, because then it allows you to like live in the moment, live in today and what you can do for tomorrow. But, so it's those type of things, and maybe we'll tap into a little bit more of that. Like, let's talk about, so that we can help some people out there. What do you do when you're having a really like just down, overwhelming day?
So I'd like to know who you are.
as a successful entrepreneur, naturally, we have this desire to go, go, go. And we're like tunnel vision. We're doing all the things. And it's very important that you learn how to unplug when things happen, because you can start being depressed and not even realize that you're actually in this depression.
Exactly.
I know I've been there. So it's very important that you figure out, okay, something tragic has happened to me, or even if something tragic hasn't happened, maybe you're just like overwhelmed from all of the work that you're doing. You have to be able to unwind and unplug. So some people like to go outdoors, like Christina lives in a sunny area. She can go outside and walk. Some people can't do that. So figure out what it is that you like to do. I'm a very creative person. I will do arts and crafts. I actually might want to go to a store like Home Goods, that like my happiness, right? Like
I puzzle. I do puzzles. Like I love doing puzzles.
And
you know, so just everybody
therapy never hurt anybody.
We all like different things, right? And it may not be that you want to plug into personal development in that moment. It may just be that you need to escape from everything and do something that's like going to set you free, make you feel very happy, and give yourself that space. You don't have to be showing up every day. Like when my, stepson passed away, I actually took 2 months off from my business, and my clients were like totally fine with that. Just like you said, Robert, this was a very tragic time for us. Yeah. And at the same time, I had a brick and mortar business. I couldn't close that. So there still had to be some, work involved there, but I tried to limit as much as I could because I had to be there for my family. So just take that time out, outsource whatever you can. I'm huge on outsourcing. Dina, Robert says he does a lot of things.
Well, I do. Let me, because we talked about this before we actually went live. What I was actually saying was, in business, I'm all for outsourcing certain things, certain activities. What I've found is like, where, Kelly would be more like, let's just hire someone to do the grass, to clean the house. Maybe, her dream is to like, they have a professional chef. I mean, she's got one. I don't know why she's, but to have someone that does all these things. And I agree to some level. Yeah. But I agree to some level. A little bit. Yeah. But like, that is so you talked about your happy place, walking into a store, being able to like, for me to detach from this computer, to detach from my phone and technology, I love jumping on the lawnmower and cutting my own grass.
Yeah, I get that.
I love making my own food and doing all. Now I may struggle with the cleanup a little bit, but I enjoy doing those things because it allows my brain to go to a different place, right?
Yeah.
It allows me to just think of something differently. And then it also makes me feel fulfilled. So one little clue I was going to ask or present to everyone is, when you do find that happy thing, like attach it to something that afterwards you feel like fulfilled, right? When my lawn is done good and everything's edged perfect and people are like, hey, your grass is looking tight, right? I'm like, yeah, that's the up. Or people are like, oh, this food is so good, right? Like this tastes awesome. It's just, there's something about that, right? And it makes you.
I want to know from people in the comments, what is your happy place? What
do you do to make you happy? Like to give you that sense of peace? And isn't it interesting? We all have like Star's like, I'm going to go shopping in my happy place. And Robert's like, I'm going to go mow the lawn. I do puzzles and adult coloring. Can you believe that?
That's Kelly. Like, sit down and do that all day long.
She can come visit me anytime. It's one of my favorite things to do, to just unplug from it all, you know? Tina.
Mine is retail therapy in the beach. So
the beach is a good one.
And lately it's been like, as long as Tony's here with me, I'm like,
that's your happy place. Tony's your happy place, Tina.
Happy place.
Okay, that's all right. That's good.
We'll talk to you in 10 years. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, oh my God. He keeps telling. He's like, aren't you gonna get sick of me? I'm like, no. I said, are you gonna get sick of me? He's like, no. And he's like, awesome. We were doing his schedule this morning. He's like, oh my God, I'd be away from you for 10 hours. I was like,
I remember that stage, and now I'm like, it'd be really nice to have a quiet house for an hour to myself and have nothing to do. I might have a nap, So here's the other
way. I went over her house to help her put some Christmas decorations, and her husband just closed his like office and is now working from home. And so I walk in, and he was there, and she goes, "What is he doing?" And I was like, he's taking a break. She goes, he just took a break. He doesn't need to take another break. And I was like, well, how is it going? She goes, he's driving me freaking nuts. She goes, he's gonna go somewhere for 3 days. She goes, and then I get to house all to myself. I can stay in my pajamas all day. And so maybe those are the things that I'll be like, those days that you're like, I'm not doing nothing today. I'm not even taking a shower. I'm not even getting dressed. I'm just gonna binge watch,
I love Sundays. What are you talking about?
Right,
Every Sunday.
Mrs. Maisel is what we're watching now. And I'm just like,
it's so good.
We just started watching it. My son and daughter-in-law were like, "Oh my God, you should watch it." So Tony and I are like, "Oh, we should watch it." So
yeah,
but
thanks for sharing, Diane. That's see, it's by the way, we've talked about loss on the show a lot, and first of all, my condolences with your loss over the,
I do like watching Hallmark movies,
but it's that's what it is. It's anything that allows your mind to escape the rut that it's in, right? It's that little place where you put yourself and you're like, I'm in a sad state. It doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge the pain. It just allows you to kind of free yourself from that.
Yeah.
And then you feel, again, that attachment of fulfillment afterwards, right?
I know entrepreneurs need to really, really, really focus on self-care. And a lot of my clients, they're like, okay, I do this. You always start with goal setting and mindset and stuff like that. And I always ask about self-care, and they're like, well, I go get my nails done every 3 weeks, and I do this, and I'm like, no. You need a self-care like twice a week type of thing. Like
that is not self-care to me.
A bubble bath, or a bubble bath with not your phone, with just listening to sound bowls or just listening to jazz.
Sound bowls, that's an interesting one.
So that's what I do. I put my sound bowls on and goes.
I wanted to also talk about social media.
Yes.
Thank you. I have that as a bullet point. Go with it.
Yeah. So yesterday, Mark Zuckerberg was, being attacked by the Senate. And this is because a lot of teenagers are on social media, and some of them have taken their own lives as well due to not feeling adequate and things of that nature. And I mentioned to you guys, as entrepreneurs, we actually go through this too, where we're seeing all of, we see other entrepreneurs who are doing more than we are. And we have people who may look at us in the same light, right? And so we have this feeling of like, oh, we're not doing enough in our business, or we're not as successful as we want to be. And these things can play a role in that. And also with social media, I noticed too that sometimes social media, if you interact with a specific piece of content, they'll start pushing that your way. And I noticed that at one point, and I'm not huge on TikTok, but I would go on TikTok and it was like all this depressive stuff. They're showing me people who have lost people, and I'm literally crying, scrolling on my phone.
And you don't even know them. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to turn those, you can tell don't show me content like this, basically. So now I see a lot of funny stuff, and that really helps. So I'm like, my husband's like, what are you laughing? I'm like, I don't know, but this was really funny. And just being able to just laugh for no reason can also really help your mood as well.
But,
that's true.
You want to see that too on social media. 90% of what you see on social media are just people's highlight reels. Yeah. You don't see, so you see in their little perfect picture family on the way to church. Nice. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's dressed.
Lamborghinis, Robert.
But I want
all the Lambo movement, right? Lambo movement.
Husband and wife are yelling at each other. The kids are screaming. This one's having a meltdown. This one couldn't find his teddy bear. This one does this. They're screaming at each other. They're hitting each other. And you're like, ah! And then you're like, okay, let's take a nice picture.
Totally.
Exactly. I always say that 95% of those that you see online posing with a Lamborghini, what you're not seeing is
the rental contract.
Yeah, or you're not seeing 95% of them that are actually getting it towed away the next day when they can't make the $12,000 payment. Right.
That's right.
So,
hey, Robert, I want to.
That's how much a Lamborghini is.
A month.
Robert, I want to address this, Robert, because you asked, what are some things that you can do? That's why I was flipping through my notes, because I literally talked about this yesterday. So I want to tell you, it was a couple of years ago where, I'd been on social media every single day for 7 years. Okay. And every single day that I show up, even if I didn't feel like it, even if I didn't want to, I did it. And I got to this breaking point that I broke down mentally and started crying in a mastermind group. And I'm just like, this is too much pressure right now. I'm going through all this loss. I'm going through this. I'm going through this. I'm going through this. And I had to have somebody give me permission to take a week off. And she's like, I do not want to see you on social media. I do not want to see you doing anything. I want you to go for walks in the forest and take some time. But I'm going to give you guys 3 questions to ask yourself when you're going through something like this. Because what happens, the reason that we have breakdowns is because we've never been taught how to process our emotions. We've never been taught how to move through those things. We don't have the tools. So I'm going to give you a toolbox for those because I think it's really important that you have that. And please, if you're watching, write them down. This will save you because it saved me over the last couple of years, especially after COVID and everything we went through. So number 1, when you're going through something like this, you have to ask yourself, you have to have the self-awareness. Tina's taking notes now.
Well, keep going. I'm gonna check it out.
Okay.
You gotta ask yourself.
So number 1, what's happening in me? Okay. What's happening in me? How do I feel? What do I feel right now? And is that real or is it perceived? Is it something that I'm making up that I don't have any facts on, or is it a fact? Okay. Number 2, what is actually causing me this grief, right? A lot of the times when I'm having a conversation, if I go from here to a 10, it's not because I'm pissed off at whatever is happening in that room. It's because there's an underlying reason. And often I'm like, hey, Ryan, I need to time out for a second so I can figure out what actually is bothering me. So what is actually happening to me? What's causing me grief? What can I change in that moment? And here's the other piece of it. The third piece is what's happening for me. If you can flip that, what's happening for me? Where's the lesson and opportunity for growth in this? And sometimes, guys, we got to wait a few days or a week or a month before we figure out, well, we're in the weeds, right? And we're just like, this is the worst thing ever. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening for me? And sometimes it takes a little time to unravel, right? But where's the lesson and the opportunity for growth in this? Even if you feel like everything is falling apart, what could change and shift? And if you can ask yourself those 3 things and dissect it, fact or fiction, what is actually happening and can I change it? And where's the lesson for opportunity to grow? I'm telling you, you can work through that point of breakdown so much easier. So I hope that that's helpful.
Christina, for 5 years, I was in the nasty, disgusting dating world, and I hated it. And every time I would go and meet a guy, I'm like, oh my God, he's an ass too. I'm like, why can't I find a decent person? And it just, God has his ways, he's like, nope, he's not for you. Nope, he's not for you. And I mean, it took me 5 years and I already knew him, but it took me 5 years and now I have this like amazing guy. So, even if it takes years to see what God is bringing you to, you just always have to be faith,
hindsight is 20/20 always, right? You can always see after you go through it, you can always be like, oh, okay, this is what I learned. And I mean, even just recently, how many of us have experienced MLM PTSD? Like that is a coined phrase, okay? MLM PTSD is a coined phrase, right? And often it comes from burnout. It comes from toxic culture. It comes from toxic, and that, by the way, is not just MLM. That is work environments.
But imposter syndrome, might as well attach that to it as well, right? Because
absolutely,
in those moments when you're trying to build something, when you're in that building phase, you're admiring those that are at the top. You're admiring those that have already created, like the successful platform. And you're going like, why is this so hard for me? They did it in a year. I'm 3 years deep into this. Why am I not experiencing breakthrough? And it's different for every person. And again, sometimes it's an illusion, right? I'm just throwing it out. There's other factors involved.
You're in all these other companies 16 years beforehand.
Exactly.
And failed at this, has a bankruptcy, had a divorce, did this. And now they found a company that they could get on and like learn from and hit the top quickly in a year. But even then, everyone had struggles or complications or think that they're an imposter syndrome, got that imposter syndrome at some point in your life.
Yep, absolutely. And that's, I'm glad that you actually brought that up, Christina, because that is true. There's a mental fatigue, burnout like no other. I'm not saying that everyone experiences that, by the way, but those that take on the added pressure of starting a business or they're an entrepreneur in some way, a Gallup poll actually has stated that it's 30% more that's weighted on them because they've taken on one other task, right? And the interesting thing is there's like this work-life balance that we should be talking about a little bit as well, because it's so hard to be driven and so focused to want to achieve something, even if your spouse is all for it. but then there's other things that come along with it. And one prime example I'll share that maybe it resonates with a lot of you is, I believe this even happened last week. I've got some very like pressured projects on me right now that I'm trying to complete. And the other thing is, when you work for yourself, you never really get paid in full until it's completed, right? That's a whole nother factor. So time is of the essence, but you want to do a good job, especially if you're like a perfectionist. And so as I've kind of closed myself in and I'm like, I'm not going to be a messenger, I'm not going to be on social media, I need to get this done. The weight of the world comes in. And the first people that notice this are my wife and my kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come home and maybe I snap a little bit more. I'm like overpressured. I'm a little more hyper. I'm a little more, whatever it may be, a little more intense, as Kelly always says. And she's like,
that's a nice way to say it.
She's like, you're a little,
oh, you're intense today.
Everything. And so they pick up on those things even when we don't realize it ourselves. And it's typically because we're like in that zone, right? We're in that zone of like breakthrough. I got to get this done, whatever it may be, whatever that goal is. And it can transfer over to the people that we love, the people that we're actually doing this for, right? The people that we work so hard for. So that's extremely important. I just thought maybe you guys could throw in a little bit on that.
I also like one of the things that happens too, and like, I'll give you an example. I dated this guy that was terrible before really horrible before I married Ryan, before I found Ryan. And I was so angry at him for so long for just being the worst human on the planet. I'm pretty sure he's the worst human on the planet. I was so angry at him. And there one day I was saying something and Ryan's like, you really got to let that go because you get what you give to the universe. That's and in true. That moment, and this is going to help people in business. In that moment, I realized the reason I was so mad was because I allowed myself to be treated that way. Mm-hmm. How many of you have been in a work environment where you look at, oh, this team was terrible or this coworker was terrible? Well, you allowed them to treat you that way. Yes. You never stood up and said no. Or have you ever had a point where somebody, maybe you're both vying for a job and somebody else gets it and you're angry at them? Or maybe somebody, if you're in the MLM space, somebody's talking to you and they end up joining somebody else and you're like, what the hell, man? Right. And it's an outward projection. But when we actually go inwards and take self-responsibility and self-reflection and be like, instead of blaming everybody else around us, okay, well, what could I have done to be better? What can I learn? Where, in my first MLM space, I had a really toxic culture in one of my teams because I had a few key players that were horrible humans that I didn't bring into the business, but they were there. And they kept making more trouble. And I was like, I avoided the hard conversations. I was like, they're just going to destroy their business. They're not going to destroy mine. But in the process, they destroy the culture. It takes one bad egg in a business to destroy everything, right? And so when I started looking at this, I was like, and I was so angry about it. I was like, you know what, Christina, the reason you're mad is because you didn't stop it. You didn't stand up and say, we do not tolerate that here. We do not treat people that way here. We do not have that here. So if you'd like to stay and be involved, then you need to change your behavior. And I think that once we realize that piece of it is in our control, then we don't feel like everything is out of our control. And it makes it a lot easier for us to move through these places of challenge.
And Christina, I had employees like that too, where I had somebody who is like really toxic and negative and starting to like gossip with other staff. And I told you guys in the past, it's hard for me to fire people because I'm thinking about their families and the fact that they need this income. And I would like literally let people stay in my company that should have been gone. So it took me a while to like really adjust from that because it affects a lot. It affects customer service, how they're treating my customers. My customers are not purchasing. They're maybe going to leave negative feedback on Yelp or other platforms. So I definitely had to shift out of that and remove those bad apples. And you're going to have people like that, whether it's in network marketing, your own employees. And of course, we vet them, we interview them, but you don't really know. People are going to put on their
best
light when you're interviewing them or meeting them for the first time. And then the true colors start to show.
So once true colors show, right? Yeah. When somebody shows you their true colors, believe them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The first time.
Yeah.
The first time.
We're all saying, go with your gut in most cases.
20 years.
Income. No.
Yeah. Christine, I'm glad you did, that you brought that up, that the negative space side, right? The energy that we put out is the energy we receive. It is so true in everything, whether we're talking about relationships, money, and that's where that we tap into gratitude, right? Tina, you talk about gratitude all the time. There were so many times in life when I saw either my competition or, you know, even peers or people that maybe I was competing against, where they would hit a certain level of success. And in my younger years, I was just so bitter, like you said, just like, oh, like that should be me. That should be me. Why them? And here's the thing: until I actually started to be grateful for all those around me, like every time someone makes millions of dollars online, you just see the hate. It just feeds in, and it's like, oh, that could go to feed these people. It could go to take care of this, whatever it is. You don't realize that ecosystem actually does take care of so many people in need, right? And so I'm always, you have to champion. If you want wealth in life, you have to be a champion and a fan for others that are actually achieving those goals. I'm telling you, if you do that and you quit blaming everyone around you and you start looking right at self, as you stated, then you're going to see your business grow. You're going to see your life improve. You're going to see your happiness return when you start to be happy for others.
You know, and you also are willing to step up into a new space, right? Like I remember being envious of people for a while, and then all of a sudden it motivated the shit out of me. I was like, why can't I do that? Why can't I get better skills? Why can't I show up that way? Well, you can get out of your own way, stop self-sabotaging and saying that I'm scared I'm not enough, and become that person. Take responsibility and become that person. And guess what? People are going to want to be around you when you do.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like
one of my first TikToks that went viral, there was 7.9 million people watched this TikTok, and it was just my bed being made. And it said, did you know it's 200?
What did you do on your TikTok, Tina?
It said, did you know that there's 212% more chance of you becoming a millionaire after you make your bed? And I was like, this went viral. And you just see all the hate in there. Well, that's because millionaires have maids, and that's because millionaires have people to make their beds, and that's because millionaires, and I'm like, no, but what it you got? No, you're not listening.
Go make your bed.
The secret to that success is
when they're like, I've been making my bed for 50 years and I don't have no money in my bank account. Where is my money? You know, like I just see it. I'm just like, you're not seeing the whole picture here.
Yeah. If they have enough time, typically if anyone has enough time to, you know, we call it trolling, but that means a lot of things. But if someone has enough time to just watch what others are always doing and why they don't have what they have, or, you know, whatever it may be, then that's time taken away from where they could be productive and they could be hitting those same goals themselves, right? They're kind of feeding into that negative space. One of the things I did want to talk about, just because we're reaching kind of 15 minutes here before we're done, and I think that this is extremely important. I did not want this show to go by without actually talking about mental health stigma. And the reason why I think that's so important is that most people sit in this space because of the stigma around mental health. So whether you're working for yourself or you're at home, you're just taking care of the family, you're in the corporate environment, whatever that may be, in most cases, when you raise your hand and you say, I have a problem, or you go to somebody and you're feeling immediately like you've just admitted that you're weak, you've admitted that you have fault, you're admitted that you can't handle something, whatever that may be. And that's just a stigma, quite honestly. It's mostly a mindset, because people truly do want, most people truly do want to help. But and so we have to break down that stigma. You guys want to talk a little bit about that? And then I'll give one more example around it after we've talked. But just that mental health stigma, it's so hard for people to reach out in a lot of different areas. I know with men, I'm just speaking for men in general, it can be an extremely hard thing, because I know it was for myself, right? You grow up, I'm in the military, I box, I'm in martial arts, I'm a tough guy, right? I'm holding down the fort.
Go to counseling, yeah.
Right. These are the things that I do. So I can't show that I'm weak, because I'm the backbone of this family, right?
Yeah. I have two of my close friends, and Christina, one of them, who blatantly tell everybody that they have bipolar and the things that they deal with. And this person, she's a 7-8 figure earner, and she tells every single time she gets on live, I'm her name, and then I have bipolar, and I've been struggling with this for my 20 years. And so people see that they're real people, and that they can still have a business and create a income and do all this kind of stuff. but still have that personal, not problem, because it's not really a problem, that personal stigma.
Yeah, that's what it
Well,
is.
that vulnerability is what shows you that you're human. Like, we're
Yes.
all human. And
Yes.
like I said, money is a great problem solver, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to have life issues. It doesn't mean that you're not going to go through things with your marriage or your family or your business. Like, you can't just band-aid it. And I think that that's like what most people that don't have money think. They're like, oh, if you have millions and your life is perfect. And it's like, no, you just have bigger problems, and you have more people after you, more people that don't like you. You have to build this if you're going to get there, because if this is the thing that you're self-sabotaging with, like, a lot of times people are scared of success because they're like, I have to put myself out there and people aren't going to like me, right? And so this is what we are constantly battling against in the industry, especially if you're using social media and showing up online, is that, like, you have to become ironclad in who you are. And that's really what matters most in entrepreneurship, is like, what are my values? What are my belief system? And nobody can shake those from me. Like, nobody can take the person that you have become. You might lose a business, you might fail, you might, get blindsided by something you didn't see coming, but nobody can take the person that you become. And that is the most important work.
Absolutely. Bank here, right? Like, that's, I always say, like, bank in your mindset way before, you just talk about wealth being the solution to all your problems. Wealth doesn't solve death. Wealth doesn't solve infidelity. Wealth doesn't solve, whatever it may be, right? The hate, the betrayer, whatever.
Health issues, right?
Any of these things, right? Health doesn't eliminate those things. So you have to be mentally strong, and you have to be aligned with, your goals, your heart, your purpose in life, to be able to really combat some of the things that we're talking about.
And as much as we say to have a support system and have, other entrepreneurs who you can confide in, because maybe you can't talk to your family or friends, if you are feeling off and you're not yourself, go seek professional help. I see people posting online that, they are at a brink of wanting to take their lives. And I'm just like, wow, get help, get the support that you need. And don't be afraid of, having a label attached to you or having to get some sort of diagnosis. Just get support right away.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I did want to share just around that before we kind of move past that, but that stigma, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, right, which puts a lot of different reports out there. They report that 25% of entrepreneurs believe that admitting to mental health issues would negatively impact their business. And that's so true. And it happened to me a few years ago, right at the brink of COVID, right in the very beginning. I went through just some of my own, tragedy and loss, things that were impacting my life. And when that happened and I went and I retreated into this dark place, I felt like, how in the world can I serve and help others? Because that's what I do, right? I help people, like, align mindset, heart set, and their soul set. So when you think of those three things, I'm thinking, here I am in my broken state. How in the world am I able to even be equipped to help them? And it wasn't until later that I again tapped back into that, and I realized it was in that broken state to be vulnerable, to actually, be transparent with people. It allows me to take both skill set and the thing that I was going through, and I was more equipped now to help others, right? To help others that are actually being impacted by the same thing. In fact, when I came back around after kind of pulling myself slowly out of this dark place, and I started to share and to help other clients, they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we're talking about this now, because I too am dealing with this issue, and I never knew how to talk to anyone about it.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but you reached out to me during that time, and you and I had probably a 2 or 3 hour conversation about all of that stuff. And you helped me a lot, because, you do feel, I've felt depressed many times, the things that I've been through in my life or whatever, things not going right, or, whatever it is. But seeing other people that are your colleagues, the people that, you look up to, go through or tell you that they're going through the same stuff, not that you're like relieved, but you're kind of relieved. You're like, oh.
Well, yeah. What it does is it strengthens.
They know my hurt, my pain, my struggles.
You have different empathy, right? There's a different empathy that comes. And I, you know, for the worst things that have happened, for being bullied, for miscarriages, I would not have the empathy if I had not gone through that myself with other women.
Yeah.
For, you know, immigration, like becoming an immigrant here and seeing all the hate online, I'm like, holy shit, like that's what people go through. I would have had I'm so naive. I would have had no idea had I not had that experience. I'm grateful for it, because now not only do I have more compassion and empathy, but I'm able to talk to that and speak to that and help other people go through it and be like, hey, I get it. I have been there. I felt that emotion. I felt those feelings. Yeah. And there is light on the other side of that.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It taps into,
you know, like, oh, you know what? You're not just saying that. You have actually been there.
It allows you to tap in even closer with your tribe, right? Yeah. And so once you've been able to do that, so for those that are like listening live, or for those that are catching this later, even on replay, just know that, like, connect with those. You know, if you're going through something in particular, it could be anything. Let's say it's a financial issue. You're more prompt to connect with those kind of communities. You know, look for that. That's the beautiful thing about social media. I will say there's the negative aspect, but the positive things is it allows you to tap into communities that are just kind of waiting. They're just waiting, right? They're out there and they're waiting for you. And so connect with those that are actually feeling and experiencing some of the same things. And the other thing I'll just add to that, kind of my last 2 cents on the topic of mental health, is once you've found that support system, it's important to also be with those that have been able to take themselves from that position and excel upward and out from that position. So you don't want to necessarily sit in a support group space that just sits there and you know, it brings you into that negative space. I've been in those groups as well, and I had to remove myself from those communities.
You have to choose different, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Look for those that are looking to improve your life.
I remember one of the first support groups I went, it was an infidelity support group. And I went in there and, you know, all the ladies were like, well, my name is so-and-so. And this lady said, you know, oh, my name is so-and-so. And I've been, you know, here for 20 years. And, you know, my husband, you know, cheated on me. And I went, your husband cheated on you 20 years ago and you're still in an infidelity group? Oh my God, I do not want to, like, I was like, oh God, I do not want to do this for 20 years.
Well, and here's the thing, right? If you're in that group to help others, you know, out of that space, out of that rut to move forward, then excellent. That's your purpose in life. That's what you should be doing. If that's the gift that you've been given through that tragedy. However, you just don't want to sit in that space. And a lot of people do, right? They want to feel like I'm in this group of people that are, you know, like-minded for the wrong reasons. We're just going to sit in this space and we're not going to empower each other to move forward.
Christina, your mom's giving you
a countdown.
Yeah.
I said, what is the 22 days? But then I kind of
22 days and counting.
You know, and you know what's crazy? My midwife was like, or my doula was like, don't tell people the exact date. Just tell them it was February. But here's the other thing that I want to address too, because it's different in the US. Like in Canada, we get 12 to 18 months maternity leave. In the US, you get what, 6 to 8 weeks?
6 weeks.
Or whatever, you know, I mean, some do not give that, but yeah.
Can I tell you, that is an absolute crime, because we go through a 4th trimester after this baby is born that they need to be around us, that you're breastfeeding, that you're like, you have to nurture this connection. And now people have to go back to work. Can you imagine the mental health issues and the guilt that you face when you go back to work and you have to figure this out? Like, that's part of the reason that I became an entrepreneur, is because I didn't want to leave my baby. I was willing to, the moment I met her, I was like, I'm willing to change everything for you, because I never want to be in this position that I don't have to be around you, or I can't be there for you. And I understand that that is not possible for all humans. Like, I think that entrepreneurship is such a gift, but there are a lot of other like things that happen in your life, different stages of your life, that you may go through the baby blues. You may go through when your kids, Tina, when your kids move out of your house and you're an empty nester. And these things are real things that are happening in your life, right? That truly affect you. And whenever I hear somebody in the States, I'm back to work after 6 or 8 weeks, I'm like, that is absurd to me. Like, that is just like the worst thing that you could possibly do to a mother and a child. And so if you're going through that, you have to honor it. You have to do everything. Plus you're still coming. We have hormones coming every waves all day, right? Like, and you're just
12 months maternity leave Paid?
12 to 18 months.
Paid?
Yeah.
We don't get paid maternity leave here.
At all?
We get maternity leave for 4 to 6 weeks. And sometimes
But as an entrepreneur, you don't, right? Like, unless you pay into EI and like are intentional about that, you don't get that. But if you work for a company, yeah, you get 12 to 18 months paid.
Yeah, that's
well,
pretty
I mean,
neat.
next month you'll see Christina, maybe like about right here, because you'll probably have a baby attached to her boob. And she'll be like, I'm still here. You just can't see nothing from here now.
We'll just have different camera angles like this, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I know we're coming to the close of the hour, and we try to make light of some things just because of our own experiences. So we laugh, we throw in little experiences, or we share stories. But mental health is really it's a major issue, and it's even gotten worse in the last 5 years through COVID, statistically even speaking, right? Just people in general. And you thought that people being under one roof, it would bring people closer together. But there was so much loss, and there was so much uncertainty, and all the other things, and propaganda, quite frankly, that really fed into people's mental health throughout this entire process. So,
if you know anybody who's going through that, or if you have a friend who has said, I'm just not feeling good, or whatever, send this to them. Maybe this will be a good hope.
Yeah, and I think this is a topic that we'll keep expanding on, right? We should be having more conversations around this. I know a couple of my clients, and I believe yours as well, just talk about, mental health as their stage. And I know people personally that have lost their own children due to suicide in the last few years. That's becoming a big thing. I mean, it's always been around, but it's very unfortunate. So really, the best thing I can say is communicate, understand, and know, like, the relationships that you have with people and your own children and your friends and your clients and the people around you. Be the best person you can to support them in their endeavor, and just based on experience alone. I think
anybody you walk past, just like that pay it forward movement, you never know what people are going through, in the car next to you, and the person next to you in the car right in line, the grocery line. You never know what people are going through. So even just a smile from you might help them change their day or change their perspective. So just be kind to people. You like I said, you never know what people are going through. They could have just lost their whole entire family, and they're at the grocery store picking up milk, or
Totally.
you know what I mean? So just be kind to people.
That's so true. That's so true. Other than that, any other closing remarks?
No, but we're going to talk about how to use your story to get yourself out there and get your, show everybody your story, or tell everybody your story, so you can, build that know, like, and trust factor a little bit better. Sorry, Star, for.
No, that's okay. Make sure that you set a schedule for yourself. I'm always talking about this. Do not work excessively long hours. We tend to do that as entrepreneurs, unless you're working on a big project. Yes, we have to do that. And the other thing I wanted to add was to, if you need to move out of your home office, do that if you have to.
Yeah, that's so true. By the way, I don't know why I have to get this out there because I thought this was hilarious. But I was just going to say, give yourself, as my 7-year-old just said to me the other day when she came home from the bus, Daddy, can I have some me time today? And I thought, me time? You're 7 years old. I thought your whole life is me time. What are you talking about? But I thought it was so cute, but it is so true.
Good for her to say. That's something like Izzy would say, right?
Like, I got daddy and me time, or her own personal time?
No, her own time. No, me time. She wanted me time. I mean, her and I have plenty of these little daddy-daughter dates and things, but she was like me time. And it's so funny because Kelly's kind of like, I never get me time. What are you talking? But she wanted me time. And I think that is such a great advice that I'll just leave everyone with is, as you said, make sure that you do schedule a little bit of time. And even if it's nothing more than that puzzle, Christina, right? Sometimes it's just 15, 20, 30 minutes on that puzzle makes a big difference in life.
Well, teach your kids early for me time, because if they're asking for me time, you can ask for me time too.
That's right. And that's a good example, right? To show them that it's okay to take that time for yourself. I definitely think that's a great example for your kids. I'm going to add to that, Robert, because we started getting all this baby stuff and I've had preemptive conversations with Izzy and saying, you know, if you feel like you're not getting attention, I need you to come ask me for a hug. I need you to come connect with me. But we pulled a car seat out of a big box. And so Izzy gets in there. She puts a pillow in there. She jumps in the box. She's got her iPad. She's like, can you close the box? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, I just don't want anybody to boss me around and I just want some quiet time.
Oh, see?
Okay.
See, they all need their space as well. It's a good reminder for all of us.
That's right. That's right.
So take some me time this week and let us know how that goes.
That's it. We'll see you next week. As always. Bye.
Bye.
All right. I'm
we're still live. We're still live.
Oh, we're live. Hi, everyone. Bye.